Waxahachie man dead. Palm Beach County Sheriff Rick Bradshaw speaks out about the fatal shooting at the hands of one of his deputies. The sheriff identifies the deputy involved and confirms that the man who was killed, 24-year-old Seth Adams, was indeed unarmed. But the sheriff says the deputy had reason to fear for his safety. CBS 12's Chuck Weber joining us live with how the sheriff explains the shooting. Chuck?
Yeah, Eric, I'm here at the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office where just a little while ago, Sheriff Rick Bradshaw himself addressed us, giving us an account of what he says happened the night before last in Waxahachie Groves. The sheriff starts off by showing us what Sergeant Michael Custer was wearing while on undercover detail that night in Waxahachie Groves. The sheriff also displayed the driver's license photo of shooting victim 24-year-old Seth Adams. Adams returning to the nursery where he lived and worked. The sheriff says Adams had been out at a bar consuming alcohol. The sheriff says Adams pulled up next to Sergeant Custer, and the sergeant identified himself. The sheriff says he's not sure why, but Adams became verbally abusive and confronted Sergeant Custer, grabbing him at one point by the throat. The sergeant pulling out his gun, but the sheriff says Adams failed to obey Sergeant Custer's commands and ultimately reached into his vehicle.
Even Sergeant Custer says it took him by surprise. This guy lunged right at him, grabbed him by the throat, and started choking. That's when he broke free, pulled his weapon, told him, "You're under arrest, get on the ground." And that's when he tried to make his way into the truck and reach into the truck. So Custer kicked the door, tried to pin him, and moved back, and then the guy came out with his hand still behind the door and started turning towards him.
The sheriff says Sergeant Custer thought Adams might have a gun, and the sheriff says if an officer waits 1 second to react in these kinds of situations, history shows the officer could be dead. The sheriff said there is no video surveillance of what happened that evening. The sheriff's office investigating this still and will ultimately turn its information and findings over to the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office, which is also investigating at the same time. The State Attorney's Office will ultimately decide whether the shooting was justified or whether it should be turned over to a grand jury. Again, this afternoon, right outside the sheriff's office here, we spoke with the lawyer who represents the family of Seth Adams, and he again told us today these actions are totally out of character for someone like Seth Adams. Live near West